The board meeting ended at 7:48. Barbara Fleming does not leave immediately. She sits on the dais for a few minutes after the commissioners file out, organizing her notes, saying nothing to anyone in particular. Thomas Hartwell, the CFO, catches her eye on his way out and gives her a look that says, roughly, "Well, that was something." She nods. He keeps walking. She is in her car by 10 after 8. The parking garage is mostly empty. She starts the engine but does not put it in gear right away. She is thinking about a number, 23%.
23%. That machine sits there all night, says nothing for 45 minutes, and then drops a number that makes every presentation we just heard sound like it was written in a different language. And nobody pushed back. Not really. Stanton tried, but even he knew.
She pulls out of the garage and turns onto the county road that leads to her neighborhood, 15 minutes east. The radio is off. She is having an argument with someone who is not in the car.
A staffing and scheduling problem is a different kind of problem than a space problem. Yes, Sam, thank you. I have been saying that for 6 years. Where were you 6 years ago? And who is the man who built this thing? Sam Brooke. He stood up during public comment, talked for 2 minutes, sat down. Didn't try to sell anything, didn't hand out a business card, just said he was interested in how the district uses data to make decisions. Like he was commenting on the weather. Who does that?
At home, after a glass of water and a change of clothes, Barbara opens her laptop at the kitchen table. She types John Sambrook, Cascade Valley, into Google. Nothing useful. She tries John Sambrook Common Sense Systems. The website comes up. She clicks through. The About page tells her he is a systems engineer, embedded software, medical devices, 30 years, theory of constraints, whatever that is, studied under someone named Goldrat, Kirkland, Washington.
Not a healthcare person, not a hospital consultant, a software engineer who decided to walk into a hospital board meeting and bring an AI with him. Wonderful.
She almost closes the tab, but under the Insights section, a title catches her eye. Structural Conflicts in WA State Nursing Agreements. She clicks it. The article opens with a number, 134 structural conflicts identified across 10 collective bargaining agreements in Washington state. 4 of them appear in every single agreement analyzed.
What?
She reads the 4 conflicts: meal and rest breaks versus patient care, low census versus income security, floating versus competency, schedule stability versus operational flexibility.
That is my Tuesday. That is every Tuesday. That is what I have been filing grievance responses about since I took this job.
She reads the section called the Premium Pay Fallacy. The argument is that paying nurses extra for a missed break does not solve the problem of the missed break. It compensates for the harm while leaving the structural cause intact.
I know that. Every CNO in this state knows that.
She reads it again.
But I have never seen anyone write it down and call it what it is. A structural conflict. Not a management problem, not a union problem, a structural conflict built into the contract itself.
She closes the laptop. She does not bookmark the page. 2 days later, Thursday morning staffing huddle. Barbara Fleming, 3 charge nurses, and the house supervisor going through the day's assignments. The census is down on the medical surgical unit, and one of the charge nurses raises the question everyone expects.
We're at 14 patients on Med-Surg with 6 nurses scheduled. That's light. Do we want to float someone to the ICU step down? They're short again.
Who's available?
Realistically, Danielle or Marcus. But Danielle hasn't worked step down in over a year, and Marcus is going to push back. He always does.
On what grounds?
Competency. He'll say he's not current on the step-down protocols. And honestly, he's not wrong. But we need the coverage.
Barbara says nothing for a moment. She is hearing the conversation she has heard 100 times. But this morning, she is hearing it with a caption underneath, as if someone has added subtitles to a movie she has been watching for years.
Both positions are contractually defensible. That is what the article said. Staff the whole or don't work unsafe. And the contract does not resolve the conflict. It just describes it. Send Marcus. Tell him I'll make sure he has a step-down buddy for the shift. And Linda, put a note in my inbox. I want to look at how often we're floating people into units where they haven't worked in more than 6 months. I want the actual numbers.
Since when?
Since January. Go back a full quarter.
Linda writes it down without asking why. Barbara does not explain. But something has shifted in what she is paying attention to. She is not looking at today's staffing problem. She is looking at the pattern underneath it. Saturday evening. The house is quiet. Barbara is at the kitchen table again, but tonight the laptop is open to something different. She has typed a URL into the browser that she would not mention to anyone at work. chat.openai.com. She stares at the blank prompt for almost a minute before typing.
In hospital accounting, is nursing labor treated as a variable cost or a fixed cost?
In most hospital accounting systems, nursing labor is treated as a variable cost, meaning it is expected to scale with patient volume. When census drops, staffing is reduced. When census rises, overtime or agency nurses are added. This is in contrast to physician services and facility costs, which are typically treated as fixed. The practical effect is that nursing is the primary labor category that gets adjusted in response to short-term financial pressure.
Barbara reads the response. She did not need a machine to tell her this. She has lived inside this reality for 22 years. But seeing it stated plainly, with no hedging, no politics, no one in the room to manage, does something she did not expect. It makes her angry in a way that is more precise than her usual frustration.
If nursing is treated as variable, but is actually the constraint on what the hospital can do, what happens?
You get a system that systematically underinvests in the resource that determines its capacity. The hospital cannot run operating rooms, procedure suites, or inpatient units without nurses. But because nursing is categorized as a cost to be minimized rather than a capacity to be protected, every budget cycle pressures the one resource the system cannot function without. The result is chronic staffing shortages, treated as a recurring expense problem rather than a strategic constraint.
She sits with that for a long time. The word constraint appeared in the article she read Tuesday night. It appeared in what Sam said at the board meeting. And now it is appearing in a conversation she is having alone, at her kitchen table, with a machine that has no idea who she is or what her week has been like.
I am not a cost to be minimized. My nurses are not a cost to be minimized. We are the reason the beds are open, the procedures happen, and the patients go home alive. And the accounting system does not have a category for that.
She closes the laptop, but she does not close the tab. The following Wednesday, a nurse named Jess Reeves stops Barbara Fleming in the hallway outside the Med-Surg break room. Jess is 29, 3 years into her career at Cascade Valley. She is carrying a phone with a screen full of highlighted text.
Ms. Fleming, do you have a minute? I found something weird in our contract and I don't know what to make of it.
What kind of weird?
Okay, so after the board meeting last week, I started reading about how scheduling works in other hospitals. I ended up on this website by a consultant, and he had this article about nursing contracts in Washington. And I thought, well, I've never actually read our contract, like the whole thing. So I pulled it up on the WSNA site and started reading.
And?
Article 7, Section 3. It says we're guaranteed uninterrupted meal breaks of 30 minutes. But then Article 12, Section 1 says nurses are responsible for continuous monitoring of assigned patients. There's no language anywhere about break relief coverage. So either I take my break and nobody is watching my patients, or I skip my break and file a grievance later. Which is basically what everyone does anyway.
How did you find that?
I asked ChatGPT to help me read the contract. I told it to look for places where two sections contradict each other. It found like 9 of them, but this one seemed the most obvious.
Barbara looks at this 29-year-old nurse holding her phone like it is a flashlight she just pointed into a dark room. Jess did not go to nursing school to read labor contracts. She went to take care of patients. But she found the structural conflict on her own, using a tool that did not exist 3 years ago, because something in that board meeting made her curious enough to look.
Jess, you just described something I have been processing grievances about for 6 years, and you found it in one evening with your phone.
Is that bad?
No, it is the opposite of bad. Can you send me what you found? All 9 of them.
Yeah, of course. Are you going to do something with it?
Barbara does not answer right away. She is thinking about a working group she agreed to join, a constraint analysis led by an AI that sits at the end of the dais, a consultant's article that named what she had been living inside without language for it, a ChatGPT conversation at her kitchen table, and now a 29-year-old nurse who found the same pattern from a completely different direction.
I think so. I'm not sure what yet, but yes, I think so.
That evening, Barbara stays late. Not for a meeting, not for a crisis. She is at her desk with the door half open, reading Jess's list. 9 contradictions. Some of them she knows by heart. 2 are new to her. All of them are the kind of thing that, once you see the structure, you cannot unsee. She thinks about what she said at the board meeting to Sam in front of everyone. I have seen too many optimization exercises that model schedules on a spreadsheet without ever talking to the nurses who would actually live with the changes. She meant it. She still means it. But something has shifted in the week since that meeting. Not her skepticism. She will bring that to the working group, and she will not apologize for it. What has shifted is what she thinks the working group might be for. A week ago, she thought it was about the schedule, about whether Sam's utilization numbers would be used to squeeze more hours out of her nurses. She was ready to fight that. Now, she is not sure the fight she prepared for is the right fight. The utilization data is real. The structural conflicts in the contract are real. The accounting system that treats her nurses as a cost to be minimized is real. And none of these things are going to be fixed by saying no louder. She picks up her phone, she opens her contacts, she scrolls to a number she has not called before. She does not call, not tonight, but she saves it where she can find it. Barbara Fleming did not change her mind in a week. Nobody does. What changed was what she could see. The patterns were always there. The conflicts were always in the contract. The accounting categories were always wrong. But it took a number from an AI, an article from a stranger, a conversation with a machine at her kitchen table, and a 29-year-old nurse with a phone to make the invisible visible. The working group meets next month. Barbara will be there. She is bringing Jess.